He says the reason how the UFOs are able to go so fast is that like he said that there's an engine on a UFO that opens up a void in space.
Magnetron.
And it's almost like he said the UFO is not that it's being thrust, but it's falling into itself.
What makes it fly?
Well, that's difficult to explain, sir. The power plant doesn't exert force against gravity so much as take inertia out of the equation. Even pilots are immune to ordinary G-forces. We don't completely understand the physics.
Major, I'll just accept the fact that it flies.
Magnetron.
The magnetron is called a crossed-field device in the industry because both magnetic and electric fields are employed in its operation, and they are produced in perpendicular directions so that they cross. The applied magnetic field is constant and applied along the axis of the circular device illustrated. The power to the device is applied to the center cathode, which is heated to supply energetic electrons, which would, in the absence of the magnetic field, tend to move radially outward to the ring anode which surrounds it. Electrons are released at the center hot cathode by the process of thermionic emission and have an accelerating field which moves them outward toward the anode. The axial magnetic field exerts a magnetic force on these charges which is perpendicular to their initially radial motion, and they tend to be swept around the circle. In this way, work is done on the charges and therefore energy from the power supply is given to them. As these electrons sweep toward a point where there is excess negative charge, that charge tends to be pushed back around the cavity, imparting energy to the oscillation at the natural frequency of the cavity. This driven oscillation of the charges around the cavities leads to radiation of electromagnetic waves, the output of the magnetron. EM drive is appropriately named. November 4, 2015. EM drive is appropriately named. Electromagnetic energy of matter is the cause of gravity. This drive uses the exact same principle and creates essentially gravity for the drive to fall into. It really is simple, and for space travel you could envision these drives covering the entire surface of a vessel and manipulating the magnetic forces into one single magnetic field, where the vessel will no longer be affected by its mass or inertia. And with zero or low mass interaction, a large heavy spaceship could be flung around the universe like a piece of confetti, creating its own wind. Orion Michael Guy.
I used to live in Las Vegas, and I had a neighbor who was some drunk former military guy. And one day we were talking about just nothing, and he had told me that he used to work out of Area 51. And so I was like, oh yeah, have you seen the aliens? What do they look like? Blah, 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 yada, yada. And he would never, ever tell me nothing. You couldn't pry anything out of him. But one night we had a power outage, and like the whole neighborhood was black. You couldn't see anything. So the night sky was like really dark. You could see like a lot of the stars because there was no outside light to drown out the stars. And he was real stinking drunk. I remember this guy used to drink like a half gallon of whiskey every 3 days. So we're just talking and bullshitting, and out of nowhere he goes, hey, you see Orion's belt? And I was like, no, I don't know what the hell it looks like. And he goes, yeah, up there. He goes, you see Orion's belt? He goes, you see how you see two stars that are straight, very, very parallel to each other, and then there's a little star that's slightly adjacent and off to the left. And I said, yeah, I see it, whatever. And he goes, the bad aliens live on that adjacent star. And I looked at him and I'm like, okay, yeah, sure, whatever. And he goes, yeah, no, he goes, I'm serious. He goes, the two stars, that's where the good aliens live. The bad aliens live on that other star. And he said the good aliens look like the traditional grays that we see on in magazines on the internet with the big head, the big eyes. They're really small and gray. He said the bad aliens are brown colored, very tall, and they smell. I didn't know what the hell he was talking about. So I'm like, yeah, sure. And then I'm like, because I didn't really believe in UFOs then. But he goes, I said, if there's really aliens, I said, how do their UFOs, like, how are they able to travel from that star all the way over here? Because, we're dealing with, rocket engines and stuff like that. And he said that the UFOs, they basically run on electricity that's created out of nothing. I think he said space. He goes, they have like it was really, he said it in a confusing way, but he said that the UFOs run on electricity that's gathered up in space.
Space, or dark energy, is responsible for the electric force, while matter, or energy, is responsible for the magnetic force.
And that instead of how a rocket is driven by thrust, by a combustion engine, he says the reason how the UFOs are able to go so fast is that like he said that there's an engine on a UFO that opens up a void in space, and it's almost like he said the UFO is not that it's being thrust, but it's falling into itself. I don't know. I'm not sure if I believe them, but he said it pretty matter-of-factly, and he was, super drunk, because this guy, you could not ever have told him anything of a kind. You could never get anything out of him. But then he just goes off and says that. So who knows? It could be real. I mean, UFOs. I kind of do believe in UFOs because I kind of seen one.